What if a single drone could slip through Russian air defenses and destroy an An-26 in seconds?
At 13:47 p.m., 6 Ukrainian drones rise from the Black Sea and immediately drop into a low, aggressive run. Their altitude stays between 14 and 18 meters, skimming the wave tops where radar clutter is thickest. Speed holds near 185 to 195 kilometers per hour. Inside the Pantsir command vehicle near Kacha Air Base, the fire control display flickers. 6 contacts appear, then fracture. Radar returns stretch, collapse, and briefly vanish. Signature size fluctuates from the footprint of a small vehicle to near zero. Classification fails. The operator increases sensitivity. The numbers refuse to settle. Velocity jumps, stabilizes, then jumps again. The system attempts to tag the tracks as sea clutter, rejects the result, and tries a second pass. No alert protocol fits what it's seeing. There is no warning phase. This is penetration. At 38 kilometers from shore, the drones subtly widen their spacing, just enough to complicate correlation without exposing intent. Engine heat remains low. Composite airframes absorb radar energy unevenly, forcing the software to guess. Each guess costs fractions of a second. By 13:49 p.m., the picture is still unresolved. The Pantsir battery confirms only 3 facts. The targets are real, they are inbound, and they are flying with purpose. No one says attack, but hands move faster. A manual lock is attempted. The cursor slips. The tracks blink. This is the moment before doctrine fails, when machines hesitate and humans must decide without certainty. The drones keep coming, low and quiet, pressing the system into its weakest state. If your screen showed targets that refuse to behave like anything you trained for, would you wait for confirmation or act immediately? At 13:50 p.m., 3 of the inbound drones break formation and begin to climb. Not fast, deliberately controlled. Within seconds, their altitude jumps from sea-skimming levels to over 2,100 meters, punching through the layer where the Pantsir's radar expects low-priority noise to disappear. The remaining drones stay low, invisible against the surface clutter, continuing their run toward Kacha. Inside the command vehicle, confusion turns into urgency. The 3 climbing contacts explode on the radar screen, not physically, but digitally. Their radar cross-section swells by hundreds of percent. Where there were once faint, unstable blips, there are now solid, confident returns. To the fire control computer, they no longer resemble drones. They resemble large, fast aircraft on a direct approach. Automatic prioritization engages. The system ranks the high-altitude targets as critical. Turret motors whine as the launch assembly slews upward. The operator has less than 2 seconds to intervene manually. At 13:52 p.m., a 57E-6 missile, nearly 90 kilograms of steel and propellant, tears out of its canister. A second follows less than a second later. Both accelerate past Mach 3.5, climbing hard toward the bright, artificial threats in the sky. Each missile costs more than some entire drone production runs. But cost is irrelevant now. The screen shows danger. Doctrine demands response. The intercepts are flawless. Both decoys vanish in clean radar blooms. Inside the cabin, relief flashes briefly. The biggest threats are gone. Missile exhaust clouds the sensors. Tracking routines reset. For 4 to 5 seconds, the radar is forced to rebuild its picture from scratch. Sensitivity drops. Filters recalibrate. And below that blind layer, the remaining drones are already inside 15 kilometers. By 13:53 p.m., the engagement has already climbed beyond local control. The drones are slow, moving at roughly 170 to 185 kilometers per hour, well below the profiles these systems are designed to destroy. Their altitude fluctuates between 40 and 120 meters, hugging terrain and sea haze. To human eyes, they are obvious. To the algorithms, they are a problem. Within seconds, Buk M-3 and S-400 elements begin to acquire the surviving tracks. The first Buk interceptor launches at 13:54 p.m. Its radar illuminator sweeps between two targets, updating guidance in bursts of roughly 0.5 seconds. Each gap is small, but in that gap, the drones change everything. They climb, dip, and yaw without pattern, shifting 20 to 30 meters between updates. The missile bleeds energy, correcting its path. At 8 kilometers, it detonates in empty air. The S-400 engages next. A 48 N-6 class missile, over 7 meters long, accelerates past Mach 5 within seconds. It is built to destroy aircraft at altitude, not objects creeping along the surface. The fire control computer expects the target to move far between radar sweeps. It doesn't. The filter flags the contact as static interference, then hesitates. Guidance degrades. One drone is destroyed indirectly, shattered by the shockwave of a near miss. Another passes untouched, the missile unable to turn tightly enough at that speed. The sky fills with contrails that lead nowhere. By 13:56 p.m., the unthinkable is clear. The outer shield has fired, missed, and exposed its limits. And the drones are still inbound. At 13:56 p.m., the battlefield enters its most dangerous phase, not because of firepower, but because of silence. After multiple launches, the defensive network begins to reorganize. Radars retune, filters reset, track histories are rebuilt from fragments. For the systems involved, this process is routine. It takes 3 to 6 seconds. In conventional air defense, that delay is negligible. In drone warfare, it is fatal. Below the recalibration layer, the surviving UAVs exploit the pause. Their altitude drops back under 60 meters, some descending to barely 25 meters above the surface. Speed holds steady near 180 kilometers per hour. Fast enough to close distance, slow enough to stay buried in clutter. They no longer fly as a group. Spacing opens aggressively, hundreds of meters apart, forcing every sensor to choose what to follow and what to lose. The Panzer battery regains partial vision at 13:57 p.m. But the picture is worse than before. 4 confirmed targets now sit inside 12 kilometers. The system can track all of them. It cannot engage all of them. Panzer's limitation is not detection. It is geometry. Only 2 fire channels are available. Every engagement locks the system into a narrow cone, leaving other approaches exposed. The operator selects targets instinctively. Center mass, highest closing rate. Turret drive strain as they pivot back and forth, trying to compress time that no longer exists. Missile reload timers flash. 9 to 11 minutes are required for a full resupply. That information sits on the screen. Ignored. There is no room to think beyond the next trigger pull. By 13:58 p.m., the drones are no longer approaching. They are arriving. The engagement envelope collapses inward. The defenses are still active, still firing, still calculating. But the gap has already done its work. The outer layers have spent their advantage. The inner layer is overloaded. And the distance to the base is shrinking faster than the systems can adapt. By 13:58 p.m., the problem is no longer missiles or drones, it is coordination. Inside the Panzer vehicle, the operator pushes for support from every available layer. Data links are active, but the picture they carry is unstable. Tracks overlap, timestamps drift, and confidence values drop below acceptable thresholds. Automated handoff fails. The system requests human confirmation. That is where the delay begins. Target information is passed by voice to adjacent batteries. Bearings are read aloud. Distances are repeated. Corrections follow corrections. In the space of 20 to 30 seconds, 3 different reference points are debated. Each clarification costs time. Each pause allows the drones to close another 900 to 1,100 meters. This is not incompetence. It is physics and pressure. Modern air defense assumes seamless digital flow. When that flow fractures, it falls back on people. People trained to double-check, not to guess. But drone warfare does not wait for certainty. By the time agreement is reached, the geometry has already changed. One Panzer launcher attempts to reassign its remaining missiles. Another system holds fire, waiting for confirmation that never arrives. A Buk operator sees the targets briefly, then loses them behind clutter and masking terrain. No single unit has the full picture anymore. At 13:59, the engagement zones overlap without coordination. Fire is possible, but risky. Missiles launched now could cross paths, confuse seekers, or waste the last interceptors on low-value angles. Command hesitates, not because it doubts the threat, but because it cannot prioritize it. The drones exploit the chaos. They maintain altitude discipline, staying just below clean radar coverage. Their spacing widens again, forcing each battery to face a different problem. What was once a layered defense is now a collection of isolated decisions. For the first time, the defenders understand the scale of the failure. They are still armed, they are still active, but they are no longer synchronized, and in modern warfare, desynchronization is defeat. At 13:59 p.m., only one drone remains on the primary approach vector. It does not climb, it does not accelerate. Instead, it shifts laterally, sliding toward a corridor the defense network was never designed to see. The UAV drops to under 30 meters, aligning its course with a 330 kilovolt high-voltage transmission line that feeds the Sevastopol rail grid. At this distance, the drone is less than 8 kilometers from Kacha Air Base. The environment changes everything. High-voltage lines ionize the air around them. The corona effect floods the spectrum with electromagnetic noise, turning clean radar returns into static. For the sensors, the corridor becomes a wall of interference. Tracking confidence collapses. Filters overcorrect. The drone vanishes, reappears, then vanishes again. A manual intercept is attempted. The final missile leaves its launcher without a stable lock, guided by estimated bearing and operator judgment. It detonates prematurely against a power tower, severing the line and plunging sections of the grid into blackout. The blast is loud. The result is useless. The drone is already past the interference zone. Inside the base perimeter, automation gives way to last resort defense. Two soldiers swing an old 23mm anti-aircraft gun, a system designed decades earlier to counter helicopters, not autonomous aircraft. There is no radar cue, no digital lead indicator, only eyesight and instinct. The drone's engine produces a thin mechanical whine, audible but difficult to place against the sirens. Tracer rounds fill the air. The firing rate spikes to nearly 2,000 rounds per minute. The drone does not evade. It does not flinch. It flies straight through gaps measured in meters. Ammunition drains in seconds. The guns fall silent. At 1,500 meters from the runway threshold, the UAV transitions. Inertial navigation shuts down. An onboard vision system takes control, scanning hangars, aprons, and parked aircraft. The camera compares shapes, angles, and shadows against a stored priority set. The match is instant. A transport aircraft sits exposed on the northern apron. Fuel trucks are parked nearby. At 14:01, the drone enters a shallow dive at 45 degrees. Its remaining control surfaces hold just long enough to maintain alignment. The warhead, approximately 25 kilograms of high-energy explosive, detonates on impact. The strike lasts seconds. The consequences do not. When the smoke clears, the lesson is unavoidable. The most advanced defenses were not defeated by speed or force, but by timing, terrain, and precision. A layered shield collapsed not all at once, but one decision, one delay, and one blind corridor at a time. The engagement is over, and the airspace is forever changed. When the smoke finally lifted over Kacha Air Base, the result was impossible to ignore. A modern air defense network, layered, redundant, and backed by decades of doctrine, had been pushed past its limits by something it was never meant to face. Not a bomber, not a missile barrage, just a small unmanned aircraft guided by timing, terrain, and code. This was not a failure of courage or effort. Every system activated, every operator responded. Missiles launched, guns fired, commands relayed. Yet, the outcome was decided elsewhere. In the seconds lost to hesitation, in algorithms trained for the wrong threats, and in the assumption that speed and size always equal danger. The An-26 did not fall because defenses were absent. It fell because defenses were overconfident. What this attack revealed is uncomfortable. Modern warfare no longer rewards the side with the biggest radar or the fastest interceptor. It rewards the side that understands how systems think, where they hesitate, and how easily they can be pulled out of rhythm. A few seconds of confusion outweighed billions of dollars in hardware. And this lesson doesn't stop at one airbase or one aircraft. It applies everywhere layered defenses are trusted without question. When technology grows complex, its blind spots grow with it. So now the question isn't whether this kind of attack can happen again. It's where and how soon. If you were responsible for protecting that airspace, what would you change first? The machines, the doctrine, or the people making the final call? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If this breakdown helped you see modern warfare differently, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. More analyses like this are coming.